Hey everyone, welcome back to The Collision. It is Daniel here, and there was an interesting story in the news the other day that caught my attention, and I will be totally honest, I initially thought this must be some sort of satire or comedy, but no, this is seemingly a legitimate story. Now, as a Christian, I believe in the reality of spiritual warfare, but it seems like we may be oversaturating the market on Demon Hunters because the popular Christian metal band named Demon Hunter is in fact suing Netflix due to the streaming platform's kind of major 2025 hit animated film K-Pop Demon Hunters. As you might guess, the motivation for the lawsuit is the band's belief that the similarities of the Netflix film's title to the band's name is a case of sort of trademark infringement and unfair competition. Demon Hunter believes that the success and popularity of the film has created confusion and overshadowed the brand recognition that the band has worked hard to establish over the course of their 25-year history. The band points to one specific case in which someone apparently purchased $500 worth of tickets to a Demon Hunter concert with plans to bring their 5 and 6-year-old daughters, mistakenly thinking that it was a concert related to the movie, which, let's be honest, is actually pretty hilarious. The Christian band is clearly attempting to sort of frame the conversation as an example of a mega corporation being inconsiderate and taking advantage of a smaller entity. And as a Christian, I think there are several ways to unpack this. To start, and I think in defense of the band, I don't think it's somehow unchristian for Christians to worry about potential threats to their career and business. I think that the band thinks that they have a legitimate cause for concern, and also the data to back up the claims that the title of the Netflix movie will significantly impact their career, then I can see where they're coming from. But that being said, it's hard not to see this as a Christian and cringe, at least just a little bit, because I think there are several other factors to consider. One is that the concept of demon hunters is not really a novel idea. The band obviously didn't invent the idea of demon hunting, and it doesn't seem like there's really much of a case to be made that the band has exclusive rights to that title. Now, perhaps if it was another band with the same name, that might be something, but just as part of a movie title, it just seems like a big stretch. And I think it's also notable that the K-pop band in the movie itself is not actually called the Demon Hunters, they're actually called Huntrix. Secondly, I question how much genuine confusion the similar names have had or will actually cause. I think if you've ever bought tickets online before, you'll know that it's usually pretty clear what you're buying. I think if you're on a website buying tickets and see a photo of a bunch of tattooed, tough-looking dudes performing at some shady underground venue, and you conclude that it must be a family concert in relation to an animated movie, then honestly, that's probably a bit more of a you problem. And if anything, I would actually think the success of K-Pop Demon Hunters movie would actually help the band rather than hurt them. They're obviously not competing for the same audiences, but I think the increased attention on the phrase Demon Hunter will probably lead to more people finding out about the band, or at the very least, just to people stumbling upon them in Google searches. In fact, I think a better approach would be to lean into the similarities, maybe even record a metal cover of the movie's hit song Golden, or something like that, just to ride the wave of the film's popularity a bit. Now, I obviously don't know all the details, and the band clearly seems to think that it's a serious enough issue, so I don't want to too quickly just discredit that concern. But to me, I think the main takeaway of this is simply the optics, which I think are going to look pretty bad. K-Pop Demon Hunters is such a mega hit and so beloved by so many people that this whole situation, I think, will become a much bigger sort of pop culture story than it might have otherwise been. I think especially because the case itself seems so flimsy to me, the headlines of a Christian metal band suing because of it just isn't a great look. And to be clear, Christians are not called to be primarily motivated by good PR. I think we should pursue truth and goodness and beauty, and not just positive public images, but the optics and appearance are not nothing, especially when they're so public. For example, in the Bible in 1 Thessalonians 5, it warns Christians not just about evil, but also the appearance of evil. If you followed Demon Hunter's career at all, you know they've done a lot of great things. I used to listen to sort of their self-titled debut album back when it was released in the year 2002, which was an early step on my own journey to becoming a lifelong metalhead. Since then, they've had a ton of success in the industry, and even as they've broken more into the mainstream, they've always sort of maintained their missional purpose and have remained some of the most vocal Christian artists out there about their faith, which, if you know anything about the history of Christian metal and like other breakout bands like Under Oath or As I Lay Dying, then you know that like staying firmly grounded and like vocal about your faith is not necessarily a guarantee. Does them suing Netflix undo all or any of this good? No, I don't think so, but I do think it does add like a different dimension to it. I don't think it's like a major deal, and it's probably one that will blow over as people just move on to the next pop culture controversy. But as a Christian, I do think it's relevant, like how Christians are publicly perceived, and even like how Christian artists navigate the industry for better or worse. And at least with like the information currently available, I can't help but think that this isn't the best way to do so. It arguably like overshadows some of like the public goodwill that they have cultivated and positions the band, one that has a reputation for really existing boldly but like peaceably within the mainstream culture, into I think a more like antagonistic posture. But I think whether or not the band is right to challenge Netflix in this matter is up for debate and obviously up for like, the legal systems to decide. But fairly or not, it's hard to see like the countless headlines and coverage of the lawsuit and conclude that Christians and Christianity come out looking better in the public eye for it. But hey, I would love to hear what you think if you saw the news, and maybe you're a Demon Hunter fan or a K-pop Demon Hunters movie fan or whatever the case may be. Don't be shy, be respectful, but jump into the comment section. Let me know your thoughts. Let's have a conversation on it. If you haven't done so too, encourage you guys, subscribe to the channel, become a collider. I got lots of movie reviews, got other cultural commentary, got interviews, just other fun stuff. We'd love to have you guys be a part of that. But most of all, guys, thank you for watching. Stay safe and continue to collide through the world for Christ.